We are in the book of Proverbs, in case you had forgotten over the last couple of weeks. And I can't really tell you where to turn in the book of Proverbs because we are at the stage in that book where we have to pretty much study it topically, where Solomon just, every once in a while, he'll use the word heart. And say, oh, there's another verse about the heart. And so we're going to be topically looking at that today. You may remember back last August or September, assuming you remember anything right about last August or September, that we spent several weeks digging deep down into Proverbs 4:23 that says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The King James says, from it are the issues of life. It could literally be translated, above everything that you guard, make sure you guard your heart. And this word heart, you may remember, we discovered as we dug into this verse, means your mind, your will, and your emotions. In the book of Proverbs, probably over 95% of the time, the word that's used for heart means that. Your mind, how you think, your will, how you make decisions, your emotions, how you react to things. Those three things make up your heart. So it's pretty easy to understand why Solomon would say, above everything else that you're protecting or guarding, make sure you guard how you think and how you react and how you make decisions. Because every day our heart is being bombarded by good things and by bad things. And we have to guard what we allow into our heart because everything else flows from that. The issues of life, the King James says. It means the source and direction for your life. It's what Solomon meant when he said in Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Our life is determined by the condition of our heart. And we spent, I think, 6 or 7 weeks going into guarding our mind, guarding our will, guarding our emotions. But now we come again to this same concept of the heart. Throughout the book of Proverbs, it seems like, and I'm sure that there are more themes than this, but it seems like two of the big themes that Solomon hits on is our heart and our words. And it's just so practical on how we live our lives as a follower of Christ. As I was studying this, the topic of the heart, throughout the balance of the book of Proverbs, I found that there's really two main streams of thought, if you will. One is, these are things that are damaged hearts, or heart illnesses, or heart ailments, or heart issues. And then there's the second theme of a cheerful heart, a good heart, a happy heart. So today we're going to start with heart issues. Next week's Mother's Day, and then the following week we will pick up how to develop a cheerful heart, a happy heart, which Solomon says does good like medicine does. So we need to know that. But we're going to start, and this came from the time that we were spending in Proverbs chapter 12, about some of the issues of the heart, the diseases of the heart, if you will. The great thing about Solomon is not only does he give a description of the disease, he gives the cure. It's very, very frustrating when you go to a doctor and he says, I think it's this, and I don't have any idea what to do about it. If he's going to diagnose you, you want a cure. You want a prescription too. And I'm glad, and that's one of the great things about the Bible, is that it's such a practical book. He not only says, this is wrong, he says, here's how to fix it. So we're going to look at these verses. I printed them out in your notes for you because they are scattered throughout the book of Proverbs. Starting in chapter 12, verse 20. Deceit is in the hearts of those who plot evil, but those who promote peace have joy. A deceitful heart. Deceit is in the hearts of those who plot evil. It has to do with fraud. It has to do with treachery. It just has to do with deception in its broadest terms. He's talking about people who plan how to do evil, how to get ahead at the expense of everybody else. And what's interesting about the words that are used here, Hebrew scholars tell us that these words could mean that not only is this person deceiving others, but they have degenerated to the point where they have deceived themselves. You ever know anybody like that who lied so much they didn't even know when they were telling the truth or not, because it was just this all, like this, I can tell you're lying because your lips are moving, and you probably know people who are so deceptive and so manipulative in how they treat other people, and they get caught in their own web of deceit. That's what Solomon said. You can so practice deceit so consistently that you yourself become deceived. That's why Jeremiah said in Jeremiah 17, verse 9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Now, what's the cure for a deceitful heart? If you find yourself starting to manipulate, starting to deceive, what's the cure for that? Well, he tells us, those who promote peace have joy. The cure for a deceitful heart is promoting peace. Gene Peterson in The Message puts it this way: peace planning brings joy to the planner. That's pretty good. Now, you may know that the word peace is the word shalom. And it means more than just peace. It means completeness, harmony, well-being, that sense of peace and all of that it encompasses. Those who promote peace, those who promote shalom, have joy. Now, what does it mean to promote shalom? It means to plan, to purpose, to deliberate. It means to conspire. I like that. That's the kind of conspiracy you can get behind. A conspiracy of shalom, a conspiracy of peace and well-being and harmony and completeness. You hear me talk a lot about how we ought to let the love of God just flow out from us as we go through our days, that we just ought to be nice to people, and we ought to show God's love to people and His kindness to people, and people ought to be in a better mood when they leave us than they were when they first got to us. We need to be those kinds of people, those random acts, just as we go through our day. But what hit me as I was studying these words is, what about planning how to do good deeds? What about planning acts of kindness? I hear Victoria do this. She'll come home from work and she'll say, so-and-so's having just such a really rough time right now. I'm going to take him some chocolate tomorrow. I studied that Hebrew word shalom. It means to receive chocolate. There's something beneficial about chocolate, right? But what she's doing is she's saying, here's a person that's having some troubles. I'm going to plan how I can minister to them. And that's a challenge. Because as much as we want to do those just normal, ordinary, random acts of just being nice to people, what about planning how to do deeds of kindness? When you know somebody, and obviously this is not something you can really do to a stranger, but when you think about somebody that's in your life, maybe your work life or your family life or an acquaintance, and you know somehow that they're going through some difficulties, why not say, God, would you please give me some creative ways so that I can plan some acts of kindness, some deeds of goodness? Not randomly, but on purpose. Let me plan how to do this. I want you to think about that a little bit. How to promote goodness, how to plan. Here is how I'm going to minister to that person. It may be a phone call, it may be a text, it may be an email, it may be, taking supper to them, it may be, just different things. How can I plan to do an act of kindness to minister to them? The second heart issue Solomon gives us, and I gave you the New King James Version because for some reason the NIV does not include the word heart that is in the text. It's Proverbs 14:14. The backslider in heart will be filled with his own ways, but a good man will be satisfied from above. I grew up in a church where they talked about backsliding a lot. I don't know if that's a word that's familiar to you. It means to slide back, And preachers say you can tell when people are backsliding because, they start off on the front row. Now, all of you on the back row, you all have sat on the back row your whole life, so you can't backslide because you got no more benches to backslide to. but it is interesting. In larger churches, I've seen it happen where people used to sit up on the first or second row, and then all of a sudden it's the fourth or fifth row, and then it's the seventh or eighth row, and then it's the back row, and then you don't see them for a while. They're sliding back, literally. Now, you probably know backsliding outside of the spiritual realm. If you've ever been on a diet, my guess is there was a time when you did some backsliding. I saw a post on social media the other day. Somebody said, I am eating a burger. I know I'm not supposed to be, but sometimes you just got to have a burger, Now, but, the second one and the third one and the fourth one, if that's not what you're supposed to be doing, that's the process of sliding back. We understand that. And you understand it spiritually, too. You're not spending as much time in the Word. You're not praying as regularly. Church as well, if I feel like it. And, and you're sliding back. Casting Crowns several years ago did a song called Slow Fade, which was about backsliding. And the chorus said, it's a slow fade when you give yourself away. It's a slow fade when black and white are turned to gray. And thoughts invade, choices are made, a price will be paid when you give yourself away. People never crumble in a day. It's a slow fade. And that's Paul Simon's song, Slip Sliding Away, that backsliding. This verse says that the backslider will be filled with his own ways. In other words, you reap what you sow. But what's the cure for that? And this is kind of where I started struggling. But a good man will be satisfied from above. What in the world does that have to do with the cure for backsliding? Well, I studied that word, good. A good man will be satisfied from above. And I found that it means to strive for excellence. So in a word, the cure for backsliding is to be excellent. A good man, it's somebody whose inward motivation matches his outward living, who is striving for excellence, who is striving for the best. In other words, you're either moving forward or you're sliding backward. I don't think there's a word called front sliding, but that's what he's talking about. You either are moving forward or you're sliding backwards. And the cure for sliding backwards is to make sure you're being excellent, that you're always moving forward, that you're always pursuing God's best for you. And when I understood that, I thought, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because if you're constantly striving to be excellent, you're not going to be backsliding. Because you're going to be forward sliding. And you're going to be moving toward the things of God. And this verse says that a person who does that, a person who is excellent, who is pursuing excellence in every area of their life, will be satisfied from above. God's blessings come to those who keep pursuing Him. So the cure for a backsliding heart, be excellent. Keep moving toward the things of God. The third heart ailment or heart issue Solomon brings up. Chapter 16, verse 5. The Lord detests all the proud of heart, But be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. This is a proud heart. He says a similar thing in chapter 18, verse 12. Before a downfall, the heart is haughty, and it's the same word as proud there in chapter 16. But humility comes before honor. This is a proud heart. Remember we said a few weeks ago, we were talking about pride, that you can really define pride, Pride, because that's what pride is. Pride is being very self-centered, being focused on yourself and look what I did. So the cure for pride is, first of all, to remember that everything we have comes from God. It's not us, it's God. And the second thing, he says, be sure they will not go unpunished. Pride leads to a fall. In other words, when you're tempted to be proud, force yourself to stop and think, everything I have is because of God. And then force yourself to think, this pride is going to lead me to a fall. And there's going to be some problems. The message says, God can't stomach arrogance or pretense. Believe me, he'll put those upstarts in their place. That's pretty good. They will not go unpunished. So the cure for a proud heart, remember everything came from God. And remember that pride leads to a fall. The fourth issue from hearts, chapter 19, verse 3. A person's own folly leads to their ruin, yet their heart rages against the Lord. This is an angry heart. This is an incredible verse. And again, Gene Peterson in the Message. People ruin their lives by their own stupidity, so why does God always get blamed? Isn't that? Maybe you've done that. You know people who've done that. They make horrific decisions. They don't pray about anything. They have no regard for God in their lives at all. And then they get in trouble, and the first thing they do is they lash out at God. We bring it on ourselves, and then we get angry at God. I heard somebody say that most of our praying is, Lord, please don't let 1 + 1 = 2. In other words, I know I'm messed up, and I know I shouldn't have done this. Please don't let there be consequences. And Solomon says there are people like that. They're just angry. And they're angry at God for the things they did to themselves. There's a lot of stuff that we get in trouble for. God didn't have anything to do with it. We brought it on ourselves by our bad decisions, by recklessness, by whatever it is, by disobedience and sin. We bring it on ourselves, and then we blame God. Solomon says, no, it's your own folly that led to your ruin. So the cure for this kind of a heart is to take personal responsibility. It's to recognize I'm here because of decisions that I made. I have no one else to blame but myself. And now, God, please, help me. It's the prodigal son. He came to himself. And he said, I need to get back to God. Take personal responsibility. And then back to chapter 12, verse 25. And this is where I mentioned that Solomon talks about the heart a lot, and he talks about words a lot. He combines them in this verse. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. The King James is kind of picturesque. Heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stoop, but a good word maketh it glad. Heaviness in the heart of man makes it stoop. You ever been stooped over by a heavy heart? We all know that feeling. Sometimes not just emotionally stooped over, but literally, physically bent over under the weight of a heavy, anxious heart. And I wondered, what does this word mean? Anxiety in the heart or heaviness in the heart. It includes fear and sorrow, anxiety, any of those things in life, the uncertainties of life, the fears of life, the sorrows of life, what the scripture calls the cares of this world. And we all know about heavy hearts. Everybody at some time or another goes through a heavy heart. What's the cure for it? Well, we talked back in February when we started one of our studies on words, that just as words can tear down people, words can build up people. And as we minister to others with our words can actually give life. The cure for a heavy heart is to speak kind words. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Earlier in chapter 12, verse 18, he says, the words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Chapter 15, verse 4, the soothing tongue is a tree of life. Chapter 16, verse 24, gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. We all know how negative words have power. So don't underestimate the power that positive words have. We know that negative words can tear people down, so don't underestimate the power of kind words. I think sometimes, and maybe this is why Solomon hits it over and over and over, I think sometimes we underestimate the power of just saying an encouraging word to somebody. Just saying a word of cheer to somebody. I see it in the nursing homes, in the hospital. Somebody's kind of, working with rehab or something, and they're struggling and they're having a rough day. And you just come by and say, you're doing so much better than you were even last week. You look like you're doing really well today. You can literally see a physical reaction. And you watch them kind of straighten up a little bit. And their eyes kind of brighten up a little bit. Yeah, thank you. There's power in kind words. Now they know when you're lying to them, but be honest. It looks like you're making progress. And there are, especially on Mondays, I'll tell them, you're moving better than I am today. But just don't underestimate the power of kind words. Words of encouragement, words of uplift, words of appreciation, words of gratitude. Be an encourager. Somebody said, be a weightlifter with your words. Help people carry their burdens by the words you give them. I told you the story of the little boy at a little league game, and his team had lost, and he's sitting by himself in the bleachers kind of crying, and somebody comes up to him and said, what's the matter, Johnny? Are you crying because you lost? He said, no, I'm crying because there wasn't anybody here to say, way to go, Johnny. We all need people in our lives to say, way to go. We all need those kind words, those words of encouragement. We need to be that kind of person. Because, I don't know, maybe it's just the job I have outside of here, but I think I know a whole lot more people with anxious hearts than I do with cheerful hearts. Because the world just kind of brings it down on you, doesn't it? And people are stooped under the weight of those heavy hearts. And something as simple as, I'm praying for you, I'm thinking about you, I'm glad I saw you today, I hope things get better for you. Just those words of kindness and encouragement can help lift the burden of that heart. But then I really started to get excited as I kept digging into this verse. I don't know Hebrew grammar, so I have to study people that do. And as I was digging into this, I found this out. That the grammar in this verse indicates that as you speak encouraging, kind words to other people, those words will also lift your heavy, anxious heart. It's you reap what you sow. It's like your words are rebounding back to you. And that makes sense, anecdotally, but to find out that there's actually, in the grammar of these words, the idea that the anxious heart may be your own. But as you speak kind words, as you speak encouragement, your burden is lifted too. And I was thinking about that as I was fighting to get to sleep last night. You know, if you're telling somebody, you know, God is with you. I know it's tough, but God is with you, and I'm praying for you, and He promised He'd never leave us, and you're hearing that too. And as you hear that, you start, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that is true. You know, He's with me too. And the kind words and the encouraging words that you speak to others, you're listening to, and therefore, not only are you helping to cheer their heavy heart, you're cheering yourself up. That's pretty good. We do a pretty good job of beating ourselves up. Boy, how stupid can you be? How many times are you going to make that mistake? You know, but wouldn't it be nice if we went around and tried to cheer ourselves up? You know, the Bible talks about speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. Encourage yourself as you lift the burdens of other people. That's a challenge. So the two big, well, out of these 5, I just want to pick out 3. They're not necessarily biblically rated because all of them are equal, but the 3 things that stick out to me are, number 1, start planning how to be good to other people. You know, don't count on the randomness. Start thinking about, you know, when I hear that so-and-so's having a rough time, here's what I'm going to do. And plan how to do those acts of kindness. You all know Mary and Will. They were here last week. And Mary's daughter Nellie, most of you know. Nellie had a pretty serious back surgery back maybe when she was in high school. And we had been friends for a while. And Donna and Kimberly, our oldest daughter, who was one of Nellie's good friends, decided that they would put together, and I forget what they called it, the Cavalcade of Kindness or something or other. And while Nellie was recuperating on a regular basis, they did something for her to encourage her. She still talks about that to this day. You know, that was, you can't do that randomly. You have to sit down and say, let's plan this out, how we're going to do that. That's just an example. Lord, help me, give me creative ways. When I hear people are going through things, what can I do? Maybe a little out of the ordinary that will bless them, that will encourage them. Help me to plan those acts of kindness. The second thing that sticks out to me is keep pursuing excellence. Don't slide back, keep sliding forward. Doesn't matter how much progress you're making, just make sure it's forward and not backward. And then third, speak kind, encouraging words. Because when you do, you're going to lift their heavy heart and you're going to lift your heavy heart. That's a win-win as we follow the truth of God's Word. Father, thank you for the practical nature of your Word. That it doesn't just talk to us about how to get to heaven. You tell us how to live our lives to make a difference in the lives of other people. We all have people in our lives who could stand some encouragement. We all have people in our lives who could stand some deeds of kindness. Help us, Father, to allow your light to shine through us into their darkness. Because we know that not only will we minister to them, but you'll minister to us in the very act of us ministering to others. So may we learn to be people who are always on the outlook for how we can bless somebody, how we can encourage somebody. And may we always be moving forward. May we be always moving toward excellence in everything that we do. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine on you and give you His peace now and evermore. Amen. God bless you. Thanks for coming out today. You're dismissed.